Welcome to Small Business Saturdays video series with your host and my husband.
And my dad, Aaron Montgomery.
Join the conversation.
Let's talk some business.
Hello there. Welcome into Small Business Saturdays. My name is Aaron Montgomery, and you can find me over at oursuccessgroup.com. Or if you want to reach out directly to me, I have an easy way for you to do that. You can just contact me at consultaaron.com. And I'm excited to be tuned in with you guys here today. We're going to be talking about what I believe is a challenge that a lot of us have, right? We've got, well, you know, the way I look at it here is we love to consume information, and, you know, we try to do our best to put things into practice. But then we get to that place where we just feel like things don't change. Maybe things don't change as quickly as we would like, right? And so I'm excited to talk about that today, because I know that that's a place where I get to at times, right? Where just things aren't changing as quickly as we would expect them to change, even though, you know, we feel like we're working really hard, we're doing the right things, we're learning about the things that we need to learn about, and, you know, all that kind of fun stuff, right? And so we end up asking ourselves, you know, there's a few questions that stand out, but here's a couple that I wrote down here, right? Why am I not making progress in my business? Right? Why do my goals seem out of reach? Am I really not any closer after all of this? After, you know, the 6 months of 2023 working hard, after being in business for 3 years, after, you know, right? Because here's what happens. We're just over halfway through the year, getting even further, right? We're almost to the end of July for those that are tuned into the live version here today. And, you know, again, it doesn't matter where we're at in the year. It could be any time, depending on when you're listening to this. Maybe you're catching the replay. Maybe you're catching this on the podcast version, right? But we start thinking about that stuff, and our human nature, we're really good at this. We're really good at finding the problems, right? Because that keeps us safe. That keeps us from getting eaten by the saber-toothed tiger. So that's a natural human ability and instinct, is to find the problems, find things that make us feel uncomfortable and point that out. And we start feeling discouraged, right? And I know I say this because I know this is how it's worked for me. And in fact, it's something I'm still working on. And so that's the beauty of being able to do Small Business Saturdays here, is I get to not only talk about things that I believe can help other people. I've been told that wow, that was great. This is really helpful. But it also gives me an opportunity to discuss things that I know I need to work on. So we have to figure out, okay, how do we get beyond that, right? How do we stop asking ourselves those questions? Well, not necessarily stopping asking those questions, but asking those questions with the response being discouragement, and that feeling of just like throwing our hands up in the air and saying, I give up, right? I can't do this anymore, right? Because that's ultimately where failure lies. Once we get to that point where we go, I give up, I can't do anything anymore, then guess what? That was a failure. You stopped, right? But if we can persist through and get there, right? So how do we get there, right? And to me, the key, the tool, the magic button, right? If you're coming looking for magic bullets, this is going to be as close as you'll ever get. I actually have a couple things that are as close to the easy button as you're going to get, but ultimately, to overcome that discouragement and to be moving forward, the key is momentum, right? It's momentum to the rescue, right? So the concept that I want to talk about this week is, how can we take away the discouragement and realize that the momentum that we're creating, and then also utilizing that momentum instead of discouragement, is going to allow us to make even more progress, right? So if you look at it this way, and I never know, so you guys tell me, if those of you that are tuned in live right now in the comments, how this kind of aligns for you. Does it make sense, right? But if you think about this growth, the success, this momentum that we're talking about here, and you equate that to maybe compound interest, And if you're not familiar with compound interest, it's just the interest that we gain on our investments. So if I'm investing in the stock market, I'm going to get interest every time that the progress is there, and I have some interest in that, and that interest then will build up over time. Because if I have $100 and I get $5 in interest over the course of whatever, however long, right? I don't know what the percentages are on that, but now I've got $105. And the next time I get interest on $105 instead of $100, right? And so even though the interest is small, it now that $105 becomes $107, or whatever, and it just keeps growing. And compound interest is like what we're talking about with momentum. All right, we make that little improvement, we make that little change, we have that little success, and it might not feel like we're making progress. We might feel like we're on a plateau, but the reality is it is progress. It's just slight, and we have to keep that momentum going, because then not only does that compound interest grow, but it also makes bigger interest, right? And so then if you'll look at, like, Warren Buffett is the master of compound interest. He's noted this as the way that he's really kind of made his fortune, and he's utilized that momentum of compound interest to become one of the richest people in the world, right? And he basically would stay the course, take the right actions at the right time, and through kind of positive beliefs in himself and being persistent, he's grown to the person that he is with the wealth that he has. And it's compound interest, and it, again, it looks like this. So if you're watching the video version of this, so you're the podcast version, I'm just making a line that seems a little bit straight, but it's actually going up slightly. And then at the end, before we even realize it, it turns into like a hockey stick, right? It's kind of straight, and then it shoots up. But we don't notice that moment of it shooting up. We're just stuck on the actual stick part, where it doesn't feel like we're making much progress. And then we end up giving up too soon, right? And so that's what I want to talk about today is how we can kind of look at that and look at that a little more deeper level. And then I'm hoping to also share some practical strategies that you can go and implement, and that are going to allow you to take intentional actions and just have really high intentions of the outcome while staying detached from the actual results. So that's my goal here today over the next whatever it's going to take, 30, 40, 50 minutes, depending on how much you guys jump in there and get me up on my soapbox. So we'll see. Now, before we do that, though, I am going to tell you the most powerful tool that I've ever found to increase our progress is a mastermind, right? It's why I'm so bullish on masterminds. It's why I've worked so hard to surround myself with people that are of like minds, right? That, building my own masterminds, hosting masterminds, working with somebody like Addie to figure out how we can even help more people, right? It's why I talk about masterminds as often as possible. Some of you that have been around me for a bit might sometimes go, God, Aaron, really? Masterminds again? But this is my breakthrough goal, right? This is the progress I have to make. So I have to do these little things. And there's a reason for it, right? We have to stay persistent. So let me quickly, before we get too far away, and then I'll come back and check in with everybody that's tuned in here. Let's take a little look at this program that, I want you to take a serious look at this and say, is this something worth applying for? Is this something worth checking out? Is this something worth going to consultaaron.com and asking me about it, right? So here we go. Do you feel like you've spent countless hours and thousands of dollars trying to achieve your goal and are still spinning your wheels? Do you feel like you're not achieving your important goals due to a lack of support or accountability? You need a facilitated, transformative mastermind group. Not just any old mastermind group, but one that's facilitated by certified Success Principles coaches. Stop being trapped in the cycle of stagnation and join a group of high-achieving individuals raising each other up. Visit radicalgoalgetters.com to apply for your spot today. It's time to achieve your number one goal for 2023 and set yourself up for a successful 2024. You will achieve a goal you had a hard time believing was possible and find a community of support and accountability that will lead to more self-confidence. There are only 5 available time slots, and each group is limited to 6 people. Groups are forming the week of August 7th. Head to radicalgoalgetters.com now. All right. Well, for those of you that are tuned in live here, this is your last week to apply for the next round of these masterminds. And if you get to the end of this year and wonder what you could have done to kind of reach the most important goal that you have for yourself, I'd say this could be it, right? And you don't want to have those questions. So make this investment in yourself. And here's the great part, Addie and I, if you go back and watch the Radical Goal Getters Live that we do on Wednesdays, we've guaranteed this success. So anyhow, there's the first tool, right, that you can utilize, and it really is as close to the easy button as you're going to ever find, I believe. But I want to talk about the rest of the process here too. And this will allow us to, even if you are in a mastermind or whatever it is for you, that we want to maintain momentum and realize that even when we feel like we're on that plateau and we're not, that progress seems elusive, right? That we're not making the progress that we want, that we are actually making progress. Now, before I do that, I do want to check in with the folks that are tuned in here on the live version here today. And I appreciate you guys stopping in, and I also appreciate you sharing with others there. So Chuck, good afternoon to you. And we've got Betty. Hey, I love having Betty around, and I love having Betty and Rena around. In fact, Betty, thanks for reminding Rena to jump on in here. Hey, Rena, good to see you. So awesome to see you, Martha. Hello. And Cindy, good afternoon. Look at you working away on a Saturday, and I'm happy that you joined in too. And then my wife is tuned in. She says, hi, OSG Masterminds are some of the most inspiring people and have helped me keep going. So love it. Thanks, Kylene, for sharing, and thanks for tuning in, and thanks for the lovely breakfast that I just had. Even though it's a little bit late, we're fasting a little bit, so we're trying to we have breakfast at lunchtime. All right. So okay, let's get back to this here, right, you guys? What's the first tool, right? This is again where I want to kind of head, and just to give you guys kind of the roadmap here for the rest of this time that we have together. You guys jump in at any time. That's what I love about Small Business Saturdays. We can take this conversation wherever you guys want to take it. For those of you that are tuned in live, but here's my plan. Here's my roadmap. Is we're going to talk about some of the tools, the kind of the bigger picture of what this is all about, how we can make sure that we understand about momentum and then utilize that. And then we'll break that down a little bit. And then from there, we'll actually talk about what I believe are some actual strategies, tools, whatever you want to call it, that you can put into play for yourself. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you about those things before we get there is, your system is going to be your system. And this is what I'm always all about is I'm going to show you ways that have worked for me. I'm going to show you ways that I've seen work for other people. I'm going to tell you about the concepts, but ultimately the system that's going to work for you is the system that's going to work for you. And, I'm fortunate that one of my superpowers is helping people design those systems, seeing the problems, not necessarily as problems, but as opportunities to find solutions, seeing kind of what the path is through. So that's my hope for today. And if you guys are ready to dive in, rhetorical question, because I'm going to dive in. All right. Well, what's the first thing? The first thing here in my mind, in this kind of understanding how we can build momentum and utilize that to keep moving forward and find more success quicker, find more happiness quicker, find more joy quicker, find more health quicker, whatever it is for you, is focus. And this has been an area that I've been really focused on myself. Am I focused enough, right? Or are there too many shiny objects? You guys that have been around a little bit, my wife for sure knows that I am that squirrel that loves the shiny objects. Oh, look at that. That looks fun. Let's play with that for a little bit. Oh, look at that. That looks fun. Let's play with that for a little bit, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, right? I'm curious. I want to find that fun. I want to try some new things. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But if I really want to achieve something, if I really want to get somewhere, if I really want to kind of make something happen, we have to have some focus, right? What is your number one most important goal? What is your number one most important thing that you'd like to change in your life right now? What is your number one most important thing that your business needs to take it to the next level, right? Have you clearly defined what that is? In fact, here's what I've discovered. We have to clearly define that at such a deep level. And as humans, we love stories. That's how we understand things, right? The narratives that people tell, that's why we get enthralled in books. That's why we get enthralled in movies. That's why we love to tell our stories. That's why we love to listen to stories about others, because that's how we understand things. And when we go so deep into what is most important for us, that we can and clearly define that and really just see the story, right? See the ending. That focus, that understanding of what's most important isn't just kind of a North Star, a guiding light. It actually becomes a magnet, right? It actually is pulling us there. We're so clear and confident in it that it's a magnet that we're going to get there no matter what. It's pulling us there. We can't stop ourselves without doing something really major. It's moving us in that direction. So, this is something that I've been fortunate enough to be able to help others with in the Masters of Success program, which is the Our Success Group Mastermind. It'll be one of my responsibilities through Radical Goal Getters that I'm doing with Addie. It's really the foundation of what a little program that I've got called Clarify Your Reason, which is one of the micro consult programs that I do over at coachosg.com. So getting some clarity on that and finding that focus is really important. Now, here's what I want to make sure that I'm really clear on is this doesn't mean that you're always only working on one single thing with blinders. We can't even, get rid of all shiny objects and you just have to be so focused, nose to the grindstone, grind harder, hustle. Blah. I don't like that stuff, right? We have to be able to be a little bit more. All this means when we talk about finding that focus is really getting clarity on what the most important thing is. And then understanding, are you willing to commit to making the most important thing, right? Because then we focus on that, right? I say, okay, this is the most important thing. This is what I'm going to focus on and make sure that that rises to the top when it needs to rise to the top. And then what's the next most important thing, right? Because okay, I'm a business owner. I'm the owner of Our Success Group. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm somebody that has a passion for sharing fundamentals and foundations, right? I'm somebody that has a passion for volleyball. I'm somebody that needs to rest and recharge. I'm somebody that needs to be healthy so I can live a healthy life, right? And so I'm all of those things. I'm not just one thing. I'm not just, 10,000 people in a mastermind program. Right. That's my most important thing. I feel like that's my most important purpose on this earth, but I'm all of those things. Right. So I focus on that thing and then I can focus on what the next most important thing is. And sometimes those things change a little bit, right? Sometimes those things, because we're ultimately looking for balance, right? We're ultimately looking to understand that we need to have a balance of all of these things, right? So if I'm only focused on the masterminds and I forget to focus on my health in the appropriate moments, then guess what? I'm going to be way out of alignment with that. And that's and I'll show you in this little wheel that my wife and I use to kind of have an actual system for ourselves, right? Then I need to go, oh, you know what? Shoot, I need to kind of move. Hey, Aaron, let's eat a little bit better. Hey, Aaron, let's actually get away from your desk. Hey, Aaron, let's get outside in nature, right? Whatever those things are. And so then what's the next thing? And then focus on recharging, right? And then maybe it's focusing on, but it's finding balance. And this is why it becomes so crucial that we are working on goals that are yours, right? And that little statement right there, I think people sometimes just gloss over that. Oh yeah, my goal. Okay. But have you really thought about that? Is it really your goal? Right? Like when we were younger and maybe we were, getting about ready to go to college, for example, right? And we thought we had these goals. But some people look back and go, that's what my parents wanted for me, right? I just watched a documentary about Wham yesterday. Whatever, please don't judge me, but I enjoy Wham. Big George Michael's fan. I thought he was pretty awesome. And I always had a lot of fun with my friends, just being who we were in the middle of a club in Scottsdale, dancing a Wham, right? Whatever. But it was interesting because what his father wanted him to do was become a doctor or lawyer, or, go education, go to college, all that other stuff. What his passion was sharing his music, right? So are your goals really your goals, or is it something that you think other people are gonna, are you worried like, oh man, you know, Cindy's the last one to comment here. She says, prioritize your focus. Am I setting my goals going, oh man, I hope Cindy thinks I'm successful if I accomplish this, right? Yes, I want Cindy to be excited for me. Yes, I want Cindy to be proud of me. But ultimately, I have to be proud of me, right? Is it something that I need to do for myself? I'm just using Cindy. I'm picking on Cindy because she was the last one to comment. Again, saying prioritize your focus. But whoever that is, right? Is it the society says I have to be, is whatever guru out there telling you that you've got to be $1 million a year business or you're not a success, or you have to have, I've actually heard of people in our industry that have talked down to people they're supposedly trying to help because they don't have a storefront. What? Why? Who cares? Why? Give me a really good reason that you're not successful unless you have a storefront. And and I'll argue with you on that, because there's no reason. None of that is ever true, right? It's what you feel is success, right? So really crucial that we focus, but really crucial that we get so much clarity on what that is, that it becomes a magnet. And then also very crucial that we are honest with ourselves and we're doing what we want to do, what is going to fulfill our purpose, right? And so that's where because sometimes I think people struggle with, oh, I have to go with what I want to do. This I'm being selfish, right? But the reality is you're not. The reality of that is that you are sharing your gift, and your gift is also your desires, right? And so that's what the universe, the world, that's what God put you here to do, whatever that is for you. And so if you're not doing that, then you're doing the rest of the people a disservice. So you have to focus on your desires. All right. Cindy says you can pick on me. I appreciate that, Cindy. I knew you're a good sport. All right. So that's number one, focus. Number two, and this is, and you guys are going to go, oh, here's Aaron and his broken record again. Well, guess what? Until we all start taking more action, action is the ultimate key, right? Are you feeling discouraged? Take an action. Are you feeling excited? Take an action. Are you feeling frustrated? Take an action. Are you feeling exhilarated? Take an action, right? I've got a friend of mine that is putting together a program called Brave Today, Better Tomorrow. And his name's Shad. Great guy. Really enjoy catching up with Shad when I can. And he said this to me one time, and this really stuck with me because, as you guys know, I'm a big proponent of always talking about what action you taking, right? Okay, cool. I get that there's a challenge, but what's the solution? What's the action? How are you going to get to the next step, right? How are you going to complete that journey of 1,000 miles, right? One step at a time. And he said this, we should always have a bias towards action. And here's, as I was going through those things, right? Are you feeling frustrated? Take an action. Are you feeling exhilarated? Take an action. An action. That's the key. An action. I didn't say massive action. I didn't say perfect action. Massive and perfect action are going to ultimately be the result of all of the actions that you have taken. But one single perfect massive action is a myth. It's not going to happen. Things happen over time. I was talking with some friends of mine the other day about just kind of like everything that I've been able to look back on in my life that I felt like I had accomplished something or moved forward. I look back at the process, and the process itself was extremely simple, right? I didn't need to overcomplicate it. I just needed to take one action, take an action, take a small action. But it became a perfect massive action because of the continuation, because of the momentum. And that part was not easy, right? So the solutions are always simple. If you're looking for a solution to something and it becomes convoluted and complicated, it's not right. If you're looking for a solution to something and it go, wow, that just seems a little too simple. Yep, that's it. Because it's not going to be easy. You have to persevere, right? And we'll get to that here in a second. Now, the best way that we can do this, right? The best way we can take those actions and keep moving forward and building that momentum is we need to start every potential action every time we're going to kind of do something new or just move forward, take that step. We have to have this mindset of having a really high intention for the outcome. Oh, yes, this is going to be a success. This is going to move me in the right direction. This is going to accomplish what I want to accomplish with this action. But here's the real important thing. Going into that with that, assume that you're going to win. But then once that action is done, you have to let go of the labels, you have to let go of the judgment, and you have to have extremely low attachment to that result. Because if you attach yourself to that result and you go, oh, that was a failure, it was bad, man, I don't know what I'm doing, oh, I'm dumb, I don't have the ability, right? Now you've just gotten rid of every single positive benefit from that action. Even because even the actions that you might label as a failure have a massive amount of information in them. There's feedback in that, and there's the opportunity to learn and grow that we get rid of, that we throw away when we go, that was a failure. Oh man, that sucked, right? Like it's interesting because I've changed my approach a little bit, but I look back, you're going to go, how does this relate to business? But it does, trust me. I like to bowl, and I have this personality, and it's kind of a Montgomery trait. My dad and I, and my brother and my son Lewis, and we kind of joke about this lack of moderation that we have, right? We don't really do anything in moderation. And so, I was bowling. I was doing a lot of bowling. In fact, that's where I met my wife. It was in a bowling league. And I wanted to do it really well. And I would practice, and I enjoyed it. And if you know anything about bowling, the better you get at bowling, the more your ball kind of goes down the lane and then curves into the middle of the lane, right? And so when you do that, right, you have a better chance of getting a strike. But sometimes the ball curves a little too far and it goes across the middle pin. But sometimes even when it does that, you can still get a strike. And they call that a Brooklyn strike, right? And that would happen. And I would go, and I'd be upset even though I got a strike, right? But I wasn't necessarily. Now, if I was just upset and I was like, you're terrible at this, and I went back and no, I was disappointed and discouraged in the result. But when I was able to go, okay, what did I learn there? Okay, well, I need to either, do something different, right? I need to move my feet. I need to throw the ball in a different place, whatever, so it doesn't go across there. So I was able to get that feedback and make the adjustments, right? So that's what I'm talking about, like leaving that. But the other times where you get in your head and you go, oh man, I can't do this. I suck at bowling, right? Whatever. And this is the exact same thing with how we do anything, right? When we go, oh man, I did this video and nobody showed up. I'm failure. I should just stop doing this. I can't do it. Okay. What if you said, I did this video and nobody showed up? And then you go, okay, well, that's a bummer. I'm a little bit discouraged, but what can I learn from that? Maybe I need to share it with more people. Maybe I'm not sharing it in the right groups. Maybe my message about what we're going to talk about is not clear, right? What are the learning opportunities there? So we have to start every action with high intentions of the outcome and leave them with a really low attachment to the results, right? So Cindy, when we were talking about the storefront thing earlier, says having a storefront is not always good, especially when you're in the middle of production. You have to stop to help a customer. Absolutely, right? There's just nothing wrong with having a storefront. That'd be like me going, well, you're not successful because you have a storefront. what? Anyhow, sorry, that one just always boggles my mind. I won't name names, but some people might know who that is. All right. So, okay. The next key here. So we talked about focus, then we talked about action. The next key here is we need to be able to make changes, right? We just talked about how you learn from the actions, right? Well, when we learn from the actions, that means that then we have to be willing to change something. We have to be willing to do something different. We have to adjust the actions and keep making those course corrections, right? And so we have to be willing to try new things, and we have to be willing to create new stories, right? The story that maybe we're telling ourselves that we're not good enough, we don't have the abilities, we don't have the same opportunities, right? We have to start changing those stories, right? We have to be open to that change. And a book that I've been reading, it's called Changeology by John Norcross. And in that, he talks about the five kind of steps, or the five steps to change. I couldn't figure out a great way to kind of preface it, but it really is steps. It's what we go through to get from stasis to change. Right, and so here they are. Let me break them down a little bit, because I think this will help us understand what we go through and where we need to push ourselves to. But the first thing that comes with change is just that pre-contemplation, right? This is before we really realize that there's a change that's needed. We just kind of have that instinct inside of us telling us, knocking on our heads, going, hey, guess what? You might want to do something a little bit different. I don't know. Just throwing it out there, just saying that, right? And this is the moment where it's not really a realization yet. It's just that kind of sneaking suspicion. It's that gut feel, and the reason that this is important to understand is that we have to be recognizing this. We have to be on the lookout. We have to be alert for this pre-contemplation, because that's just our internal voice telling us, hey, guess what? Change needs to happen. Ready? And then once you hear that, once you're kind of recognizing that, then you can move into the contemplation stage, right? This is when that realization hits, where you go, yeah, I kind of do need to do something different, right? I need to start making decisions about what needs to actually change, right? And I call this personally, when I look at this, when I think about this myself, I call this the research phase. Maybe it's where I'm thinking about, maybe I do need to leave my day job so I can focus more on my business, right? Maybe I need to look at ways to find some more movement in my body to feel a little bit better. Maybe I do need to finally invest in myself and my business, or maybe I do need to, stop drinking soda, whatever that is, right? There can be lots of different contemplations that we can have, but this is where we're kind of like trying to pinpoint what that change possibly could be. So we're contemplating it, right? So that's step number 2. Step number 3 is now we're in the preparation phase, right? This is the planning phase. This is where we start then going out there and consuming, right? Okay, I need to get a little more healthy. What can I do, right? I got to go out there and look and see what options are available to me. And Kylene's got the yoga challenge coming up on August 1st. By the way, just FYI, check that out, riseshinesmile.com. So maybe I should think about that. Okay. So I'm going to start, kind of consuming some things. I'm going to start learning some things, and maybe even start making some plans, right? Oh, yep. Okay. Well, I'm going to put on my calendar that on August 1st, I'm going to start that challenge, right? And we might even create a to-do list. Okay. I'm going to start the challenge. I'm also going to make sure that I have a yoga mat. I'm also going to, go throw out all of the cookies that I have in my cabinet or whatever. You're starting to make your plan, and you're starting to kind of look for that, right? So that's number 3 is the preparation. Number 4 is the practice, right? This is where we start actually making the changes. This is where we go back up to that thing I just talked about, where the action phase, right? You feel this way, take an action. Feel this way, take an action. And before I get too much further into this, let me also just help you understand that, right, I'm going through this in detail and long, deep process. This could be something that happens in a matter of moments, right? You might be contemplating it, you recognize it, or sorry, you might be having this gut instinct, and then you might be contemplating it in the next moment, and then all of a sudden you make a quick plan in your head, and then you take an action, right? And that's the practice. And so that's where we're at. And so these things could happen in moments and instances, or with bigger things, it might take a little bit longer to get through that change process. So the amount of time is not relevant to what we're talking about here. So don't let that get you stuck. So back to what we're talking about here in practice, right? We need to actually start putting the changes into place, and we need to start making those changes, right? This is where that action phase is so crucial. But here's what I know about myself, and here's what I've recognized in others, is that if we're honest with ourselves, we rarely spend much time here. We spend a ton of time in the first three, and we don't spend a whole lot of time in these last two, right? And so, we do a lot of contemplating, we do a lot of preparing, and we do a lot of something else that's not on this change process called procrastination, right? Anybody here a procrastinator? And I know that it takes a little bit for you guys to get to that part. There's a little bit of delay in the live video here, but if you're a procrastinator, just go ahead and do hashtag procrastinate, right? Or whatever. Just raise your hand, say yes, right? And to be honest with you, if you're tuned in live right now, you most likely are. Yep, my middle name, Betty Procrastination Spencer. Kylene Procrastinator Montgomery, Aaron Procrastinator Montgomery, right? So we spend some time there, right? We contemplate, and then we use the contemplation, we use the preparation as another excuse to procrastinate. And then even when we start to practice, if things don't go perfectly, then we stop practicing, right? Rena Procrastinator Cooper, right? So that's where we get to this last stage. And that's where this last stage, right, is where this is the one we have to master in change. And it is the hardest. Like I talked about earlier, everything out there that's important, its process is very simple. Its execution can be very difficult. And this is the execution part here. So last one, perseverance, right? We can't stop practicing. This is where perseverance comes from, right? It's where accountability and support and a success team makes such a crucial difference for us. It's really is the secret of why I'm so bullish on masterminds. It really is the secret of why I believe what we're doing with our success group is so important for people, because we need to encourage each other to persevere, right? We need to lift each other up to be able to persevere so we can affect real change, right? And so if you're thinking about this, so let me just hit this change thing one last time, because that kind of wraps up the overall process, right? Again, process very simple, but let me just revamp on the change thing, because I've been all over the place with this. So we've got the pre-contemplation, we've got the contemplation, we've got the practice. We've got the preparation, then we've got the practice, and then most importantly, we have perseverance. We have to persevere for change to ultimately set in and become, right? Because when we think about change, we change something, but then it becomes the normal, right? So when we're in the normal or the stasis, then we have to evaluate and go, well, do I need more change? Or am I there? Right? Am I comfortable here? Is this comfort good for me? Is this comfort serving me? Is this comfort allowing me to best share my gifts, my purpose with the world? Right? Is this comfort getting my business where I want it to be? That kind of thing. So those are the things. So as you might see, there's a process that's kind of built here, a very simple process nonetheless, but we have to have focus. We have to take action. We have to make change. And then guess what? We probably need to take some more action. And then we ultimately need to persevere, which when we persevere means more action, right? So that's it, right? That's kind of what we're talking about here today. That's momentum: focus, action, change, action, persevere, action, persevere, action. That's the process, and it's simple. But I want to also share some practical systems because, okay, it's simple, but like I said, execution isn't always easy. In fact, it's very rarely easy. So what tools, what systems, what technology can we utilize to make it a little bit more easy to execute? Right. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that your system is going to have to be your system. And so, what I want to share is what's worked for me and what I've seen work for others. And I want you to take this and make it your own. I'll go back to when I was younger, in my early 20s. I had this fascination with planning systems, specifically like Franklin Covey's Get It Done. All of these planner systems that you could go buy. I bought them all. I had them all because I just need to find the right system that's going to make me productive, that's going to get me to where I want to go. That was what I was set on, and I tried them all, and they all had great, amazing things in them, but as a whole, as a system, it never worked for me. And what I realized is, well, because that's somebody else's system, right? Everybody is completely unique, just like a fingerprint. So there is no magic bullet that you can go out there and get and go, oh, I'm just going to go buy that planner and life is going to be great, right? You're going to go buy that planner, and then hopefully what you're going to do is take parts and pieces from it that work, get rid of the stuff that doesn't work, and bring in some other things that do actually work for you. And so that's what I encourage you to do when we talk about this system that I use, and go from there. So my system, I call it, and I just carry it around. It's my empowered life. So I call it ELS, empowered life system. Right. And here's the thing, right? I've bought all the planners. I've had all the fancy things. This is a binder that I print out my own sheets, and I use little flags that I write on, and we go from there. So the first part of this system is kind of the big picture, is the focus. What's most important, right? I've spent time on that. So if I go and open this, and you guys are going to look at this and go, Aaron, your book's backwards. Well, it's not. I'm left-handed, so this works better for me. So, right, what are my strengths? What are my focuses? You can see some dates over here. If you're watching the video version, I've got 2030, 2025. So that I've gone in there and I've really tried to define what my goals are, right? And then from there, I have quarterly review, because I said 2025, 2030, and then every year there's, okay, what are the goals this year? But then every quarter, I go and look at my goals for the year and go, okay, what needs to improve? What needs to change? Right. So we've got focus. I've been then taking actions. And then what are the changes that we need to make? Right. And then, okay, I need to take some more action. So I've got that in quarterly, but then monthly, this is where really the rubber can meet the road for us to really kind of feel. And again, whatever your process and schedule is for you, this is what works for me, is quarterly and then monthly. And then monthly, I mentioned this little circle that we use, and this is in April. And I'm sure I'm giving away things that, maybe I don't want people to see, but guess what? That's okay. So it's all about balance, right? My goal is to have everything out here at the end. And so if I look at this, right, I go, okay, well, where am I at? Growth and spirituality, I'm at 10s, right? Other areas, my health, I'm pretty low, right? I'd let myself get a little bit further out of shape than I wanted to. In fact, there may be something coming up that I'm going to do with my dad and maybe my wife and maybe any other Montgomery or people that want to be part of the little Montgomery clan, where we, I need to lose 25 pounds. and I need to stop the story of, I need to lose 25 pounds. I've only got 40 more to go. Right? I need to stop that story. That's been a fun story, but anyhow, Kylene says Montgomery 25. All right. So that's important, right? I look at, without judgment, what's going on in my life. Am I balanced? Right. But then here's the real trick. I also have a list of 25 accomplishments that I made during that last month. Right. And you at first glance, when I first started doing that, I'm like, man, I'm just a narcissist. My ego's like, right. I just want to, point out all the great things that I did. But here's what the realization was. The realization was this celebration is so important. This celebration is so crucial to building this momentum that we're talking about here today, right? Because here's what happens when we celebrate, and the way Kylene and I do it is we go through our lists together, and we have a moment to, high five each other, say, hey, great job. Oh yeah, I remember that. Good. Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. Right. And when we have that celebration, even if it's just internally me going, yes, I did it. Right. That releases dopamines. And dopamine is a chemical inside of us, and a lot of people would call it the addiction chemical, right? We get addicted to things because we're chasing more of those dopamine hits, right? Drugs, whatever, right? But how about instead of being addicted to sugar, instead of being addicted to Netflix shows, instead of being addicted to things that don't serve us, right? Dopamine doesn't care what it is, whether it serves you or not. It's going to show up when you're intentional about that, right? Or not necessarily intentional. It's going to show. You can change how it shows up when you're intentional about it, right? So, what if we were to instead become addicted to success? What if we were instead to become addicted to our health or happiness or altruism, right? Addiction at its core, not a great thing, but if we can control that dopamine reward system. And I think celebration is a fantastic tool to do that. So we have that. And then we need to, take that, and because like I said, at first, when I started thinking about this whole idea of celebration, a couple things happened for me. At first I was like, well, Aaron, you're not there yet. Why are you celebrating? Right. It's like, you're like the guy who, running in for the touchdown and starts celebrating before they get to the end zone. Right. And then you get caught. Well, the reality is that's not true. What's happening when we celebrate is if you're running in for the touchdown and you're at the 20-yard line, you're going, yes, I can do this. You're at the 10-yard line. Okay, I'm almost there. Yes. I'm at the 5-yard line. Oh my gosh, it's right there. I can almost dive there right now. Then I get to the end zone and I have the big celebration, right? Then I go wild, right? But in reality, inside, that football player who makes that touchdown is celebrating internally in small ways along the way, right? Yes, right. Like they'll make a play and they'll get the first down, and sometimes those celebrations in the first down are crazy and wild. Like, yes, we got there, man. That was hard. This defense is really good, right? So that's what's going on for us, is we need to have that celebration, but we also then have to lean into the uncomfort, right? I mean, they might go, oh my gosh, that person behind me is really fast. I don't know if I can do it. Well, if I tell myself I can, and I harden myself to that impact might be coming, or I do something a little bit uncomfortable, I got to make this shift that, I'm not sure my body can do that, right? This is the football analogy. Think about it for ourselves, right? Okay, I need to celebrate. And yeah, I can do that. I've been able to get out of that uncomfortableness of that being, of celebrating too soon. And then the other uncomfortableness that I forgot to mention is that kind of feeling like you're being selfish or you're being boisterous, or it's ego driven, right? Again, these are celebrations to just, it's encouragement, right? It'd be like me going, well, you're just feeding into their ego, Aaron, when you're coaching those kids and they make a play and you go, oh, great job. Yes. Right. Oh, you're just feeding their ego. What? No, I'm supporting them, right? And our internal voice has to do that too. Right? So we've got to lean into that uncomfort. But then, okay, well, now I'm going to share it with my wife, right? Is my wife going to judge me and go, oh, really, Aaron? Was that all that much? I don't know. Right? I don't think so. But maybe internally I had that discussion in my head, right? So, okay, that's uncomfortable. Well, now I'm going to do it with my wife. Well, now my wife and I do that every month and it's completely comfortable. Okay, well, what's next? Well, I do this video program every week with my friend Eric called The Half. Why don't we add weekly wins to that? And let's have everybody share their wins. I'm going to share my wins in public. Okay, a little more uncomfortable, because here's what I've noticed, right? We throw this out there. This last Friday, we had, I think when I looked at the number, there was like 15 live viewers at the time. We had 3 people share their weekly wins of 15 viewers. So those rest of those people weren't willing to get outside of their comfort zone, right? So we need to get comfortable being uncomfortable. But guess what? Then once we get comfortable being uncomfortable, that becomes our new comfortable. And now we need to ratchet it up. Now we need to go to the next level. What's the next thing that we can do? And how do we keep celebrating? All right. So that's part of my system, right? The celebration, but I wanted to really have things that are good. And this is awesome. I love this, Cindy. Thank you for sharing this. Because again, everybody's is going to be a little bit different. So what is it going to be for you? Cindy says, we have bells around our shop, not just because my husband likes bells. When we finish a really big job, we ring the bell. Just a fun thing. Perfect. There's a celebration. Boom, ring the bell. Now, can you share that with your customers? Can you video you ringing the bell? I know you have and can do that. What's the next step? I love that. That's so perfect. So what is it that it is for you? Right. And so, all right. So back to my system, we talked about kind of the focus, and then we talked about some of the action. Then we talked about, okay, we need to make some changes. Then we're talking about celebration. And so that's the month. And then every week I try to look at the week, and here's where I go, okay, what did I achieve previously? If I were to rate my week, and this is always a great tool to use in anything, right? If you ever want to really get an understanding or get good feedback, ask somebody, whether that's your internal voice or some external person, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this thing? And then if not a 10, what could be done to make it a 10? Right. So that's the next thing. And then I just, a little journaling kind of summary. What did I learn last week? What kind of happened last week? Sometimes it's a big long and I'm writing on the back of the page. Sometimes it's just a quick, right? It was a challenging week. Okay, cool. It is what it is. No problem. And then I am intentional about the week ahead. All right. So what are the most important things so I can focus on the right things at the right time? What are the most important things for me to accomplish this week? What does my calendar look like? And then what's the kind of, I write it out. Right. And again, sometimes I write it out. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just feel it. Right. And it's okay. Right. So that's the next part of my system. And then the last part of my system is every day. I call it the fresh start. Sorry, over here. And here's all of the check things that I really like to do and just kind of try to make those habits. Here's my gratitude for the day. Here's the rule of 5. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a second. But then here's where I write down what it is that I accomplished, right? And then I can put the daily schedule over here. Sometimes I put some extra to-dos over here, just some things to remember. But then at the end of the day, I go back and I just journal a little bit again. I summarize again, whatever you want to call it, right? I put things that are important to me. There's my book right there. I've got things that are, what's my goal? This thing here says, what other people think about me is not important. What I think about myself is crucial, right? But then these two things have been really powerful for me too. I say what I will accomplish tomorrow, and then I write that out. So while I'm asleep, my mind can be working on that. And when I'm focused on that, I wake up the next day and I'm really focused. I'm going to get that most important thing done. And then I also write out, what's a solution that I want to create in my sleep, right? So maybe the thing I want to accomplish tomorrow, I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it. So maybe the thing I'd like to accomplish is okay, well, what is the solution to that? How can I achieve that, right? Or how can I get more clarity on what's important to me? Or yada, yada, yada. How can I share my business more, right? Just putting those things out there intentionally. And then, I have a couple of other check boxes that are of things that are important to me. So that's my system. I call it the empowered life system. I also mentioned the rule of 5. And this is a fantastic tool that I learned from the Success Principles. And then, I was grateful to be able to share the idea out there. And I love that it's been taken and run with. Betty, I like your comment. I'll come back to that in a second. Taken and run with. And when we look at this, though, the idea here of the rule of 5 is, okay, days are going to happen, right? Does your day go exactly the way you want it to every day? Even the best planners in the world, doesn't happen for them, right? Because external things are going to happen, right? Cindy talked about sometimes having a storefront is not easy because you're trying to finish production and customers come in, right? Or you've got a challenge, or a piece of equipment breaks, or your toilet breaks, or whatever the situation is, things are going to happen. But if I have that rule of 5 that I'm focused on, that I can go back to and go, okay, no matter what, these things are going to get accomplished today, right? But here's the trick, because what sometimes happens with people and their rule of 5, and this is what happens for folks that don't go deep enough in this, right? They think it's a good idea and they just want to share it out there and go, yeah, here's what I'm doing today. Blah, blah, blah. It becomes a grocery list, right? It becomes I'm just going to check these things off. And then I'm going to, feel really good about that. And that's great, right? It's accomplishment. Let's celebrate that. I'm nothing wrong with that. I don't want anybody to think that there's anything wrong with that. For me, I'm such a to-do list person, a checklist person, that I've found myself at times doing something, realizing I didn't have it on my list. So I'd add it to my list just so I could have that dopamine hit of hitting the done box, right? Checking it off. And so there's nothing wrong with that. But the real power in the rule of 5 is when you make those rules of 5 intentional about your number one focus, about the things that are most important, about the things that are going to move you closer to your goals. Yes, you have to get the production done. Yes, you have to do this thing. But can you make sure that every day you do 5 things that's going to get you closer to where you want to be in your life? Right? And that could be every day I'm committed to, 10 minutes of exercise. Every day I'm committed to this, right? There's no judgment as to what those things are. List of thing, then you're losing a lot of the value that you have in the rule of 5 there. So there we go. All right. And, okay, so Betty, I said I was going to, I love this comment. And Betty says, sleep. When do you sleep? Good Lord, right? And I get it, right? But this is kind of back to what I was talking about with change, right? I'm going through and trying to get as deep into these things as I can to share that stuff with you. But a lot of this stuff just happens instantaneously. And I have to be intentional about it. And I have to set that up. But you go through and like I said, you see here where, I was going through it. I knew what the weekly focus was. I didn't need to write it down. So I took that time back for myself. And so, it's, and here's the other thing that I'm going to cop to and admit to is, do I do this exactly every day? Nope. Right. I'm a work in progress, just like everybody else. So, I just want to get a little bit better every day. And I do. I've been doing this since early 2020. And so I have all of the stuff, and man, the change in those 3 years has been incredible. So really good stuff. All right. Cindy says, or you have everything written down and then your mind can actually rest at night, fresh for the new day. Absolutely. There's a really good point too, right? If I know what I'm doing tomorrow, then I'm not going to wake up in the middle of the night and go, oh crap, I forgot that. Oh, I got to remember that. It's not on my to-do list. I love that. That's a really good point, Cindy. Thanks for sharing that. And then she says, you have to give yourself a little space in your schedule. That is why I'm here working all weekend. Customer needs a really big job done now. Absolutely. So, these are as a small business owner, right? There's a balance to that, right? So Cindy's got a customer that's got a really big job that needs to be done, right? And so she's making a sacrifice to spend time on her weekend working, right? But then on the flip side of that, there might be times where, okay, I can take some time off to go be with my family, to go, maybe you've got grandbabies, you want to spend some time with them. Maybe, you just want to go take a walk in the middle of the day. I've had times where it's like, you know what, I'm just going to mow the lawn. Yeah. I know everybody else is at their office working right now. I'm going to go out and mow the lawn because that's something I want to accomplish. I'm weird like that. I enjoy mowing the lawn, right? It's an opportunity to get out in nature for me. And I love the looking back at it and go, yeah, that looks pretty darn good. I'm okay with that. Right. Plus I get good exercise, right? There's all these benefits for me that I believe, right? Some people are like, I don't like to mow my lawn. Okay, cool. That's fine. That's your thing. Do it. And that's the great part about being a small business owner is we get to make those decisions. But then we also have to take on those responsibilities. And that's awesome, Cindy, right? Like, okay, and you're giving yourself that space in your schedule to do that. I totally understand that. So really good stuff. All right. And so I know we've gone long. We're almost at in fact, we're over an hour now. And I knew this was going to be one that I'd really like. And then you guys jumping in here has been fantastic. So I want to first give a round of applause and celebrate you guys that are tuned in live here. If you're listening to the replay on this, to take a moment and celebrate yourself as well for taking to be considering these things, right? And then if you're listening to the podcast version, same thing. Here, we'll make it a little bit louder. Can you hear the clapping? All right. All right. Last thing, I promise. We're going to close up here. If you guys have everything else, certainly we can keep going a little bit on that. But I want to share one last thing. And this is what I think, if you really want to be able to see that progress and really feel like it's supercharged and turbocharged, there's a concept. It's a success principle. It's an idea, whatever, maybe universal truth, whatever you want to call it. I've learned a lot more about it out of the success principles that I'm a certified trainer of. And it's called act as if, right? Okay. I might not be where I'm at, or, might not be seeing the progress, but what would I be doing if I was seeing the progress, right? What would I be doing once I get to that idea of success, right? So if I need to, lose some weight, for example, right? And so I know I need to eat healthier. Well, I get it, right? I love some sugar, right? And I get the cravings and I have a hard time and yeah. But some days I act as if, I act as if I'm a healthy eater, right? Last night, my wife and I went out for dinner and I decided to act as if. So instead of getting the really kind of the thing that I wanted, I got the lettuce wrap tacos and they were just as delicious. Guess what? I acted as if. Next time, am I going to get the lettuce wrap tacos? I don't know, but I have a much better chance now because I acted as if. Same thing in my business. Okay. What would somebody that is not working at their day job be doing in this moment, right? Would I be, just vegging and trying to recharge because I've been working so hard at my day job? Or would I be, going, what, I just need to focus a little bit, right? Or what Cindy's talking about, give yourself a little space, right? Act as if, okay, I know I'm really busy right now, but what if I act as if I've got it under control? What changes would I make, right? And then we can go think about this process again. Focus, action, change, action, persevere, action, persevere, action, persevere, action. Oh, and guess what? I've started building my system. This is my system that works for me, right? I've got a, rule of 5. I've got a rule of 10. I've got a rule of 1. Whatever it is for you that works for you in that moment. Here's how I celebrate, right? Here's how I make sure that I'm focused on the right things, and I start doing those things. Here's right, and so I just start acting as if. And so that's the that's the important thing, right? That's something that we can kind of use to kind of wrap all this up. And because once I start acting as if, then I'm actually going to see the momentum because I'm actually functioning as if I'm already there. And now it feels more real. Now it feels more right. So there we go. That's my closing bit. Yay for Aaron, taking your afternoon for us. Yeah. Thank you for saying that, Cindy. And I appreciate that very much. I'm taking, this is again, what I talked about at the very beginning, why I love being able to do this is that, taking this for you guys, taking it for me, just taking it for us together as a whole. So I love that. Us word is good. Okay. That's what I got for you guys here today. I appreciate you spending some time, in fact, a long time with me here today, 1 hour and 6 minutes. And if you guys have anything else, feel free to pop into the comments and I'll come back into the comments later and share, or you can reach out to me directly at consultaaron.com. Ask any questions about this, ask any questions about the mastermind, ask any questions about fundamentals, ask any questions about when do you sleep, right? Whatever that is. Or reach out to me any way you want. You guys most of you know how to reach me. So there we go. Thank you, Betty. Thank you, Cindy. And oops, sorry, I'm hitting the wrong buttons there. Okay. I can't remember what we're going to talk about next week. Last thing, I guess. What is it that you guys want me to talk about? Just anything that comes to mind. What's there? So I'll keep coming up with topics, and and that'll be good. But if there's something that you're interested in, I've got a couple other topics. I can't remember which is going to fall in which time slot here, but I'm in the future here. I'm going to talk about nailing your niche, and then I'm also going to talk about the question we see all the time out there in the Facebook groups: what should I charge, right? And what the answers are that you get when you post on the Facebook group. is not going to be the answer that I share. So just be ready for that. All right. So one more comment here. You're welcome, Rena. Thanks for being here. Hopefully you're having a great vacation. Thanks for taking some time out of your vacation to tune in too, Rena. So I'm looking forward to talking to you next week. All right, everybody. You guys have a great rest of your Saturday, and I will talk to you guys all again next week.